The Eye of Horus, a symbol etched into the walls of ancient temples, a mark of wisdom carried by secret societies, a shape that lingers in the modern world, hidden in logos, art and architecture. But what if this symbol is more than history, more than myth, more than just an image? The ancients saw it as a key, a guide to perception, a map of the unseen world. It was never just an eye, it was sight itself, a vision that transcends the physical. It was never just a symbol, it was a tool, a way to unlock perception beyond the ordinary. Why did the Egyptian priests guard its meaning so closely? Why did secret traditions carry it forward through the ages? Why does it still appear today, hidden in places most never notice? What was once sacred has been altered. What was once a path has become a mystery. But the truth remains, and for those who seek it, the eye is not something to look at, it is something to look through. Part 1. The Origins of the Eye of Horus. The story of the Eye of Horus begins in the heart of ancient Egypt, where myths were not just stories, but encoded wisdom. Among them, one of the most profound is the battle between Horus and Set, a struggle that mirrors the eternal conflict between light and darkness, order and chaos. Horus, the falcon-headed god, was the rightful heir to the throne of Egypt, a symbol of divine kingship and higher consciousness. Set, his uncle, represented disorder, destruction, and the force that seeks to dominate rather than harmonize. Their battle was fierce and unrelenting, spanning both the physical and spiritual realms. Horus fell to the golden sands, his sight stolen by darkness. The world around him dissolved, not just into shadow, but into silence, a void, an absence of knowing. The pain was not merely in his body, it was in his mind. The eye that once saw clearly was no more. And in that moment, he understood what it meant to be blind, not just in vision, but in truth. Then, a presence emerged, a soft hum in the air, a whisper of knowledge. Thoth, the keeper of wisdom, stepped forward. His hands, glowing with the ancient light of hidden truths, reached into the void. With precision, he wove together the fragments of shattered sight, not just restoring, but transforming. The eye that was lost was not the eye that was regained. It was something greater. Now it was Wadjet, the all-seeing vision that pierced illusion, the sacred symbol of clarity beyond deception. This is where the true mystery lies. The Eye of Horus is more than the ability to see the external world. It is the power to perceive beyond illusion. The eye became a sacred symbol, one that appeared on tomb walls, amulets, and temple carvings. It was a guardian of truth, a watcher over the cosmos, a sign of divine insight. It was said to protect both the living and the dead, guiding souls through the unseen dimensions of existence. Perhaps the eye was never just a relic of the past. Perhaps it was a reflection of something waiting to awaken within us all, a vision not lost, but waiting to be seen again. Part 2. The Eye as a Blueprint of Human Consciousness. The Eye of Horus is more than an ancient symbol. It is a blueprint, a map of human consciousness encoded in myth and preserved through time. The Egyptians did not merely create symbols for decoration, they encoded knowledge, hidden in sacred geometry and anatomy, waiting to be deciphered. One of the most striking revelations is the connection between the Eye of Horus and the human brain. When we overlay the shape of the eye onto a cross-section of the brain, an astonishing pattern emerges. The contours of the eye align perfectly with the brain's control centers, regions that dictate thought, perception, and consciousness. At the center of it all lies the pineal gland, the so-called third eye, the seat of human awareness. This cannot be a coincidence. It is as if the ancients were telling us that the key to enlightenment was already inside us. The pineal gland, often called the third eye, sits at the center of this structure. It has been revered across mystical traditions as the seat of the soul, the portal to higher states of being. René Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, believed the pineal gland was the bridge between the physical and the spiritual realms. The Hindus call it the Ajna chakra. The Buddhists refer to it in meditation practices, and Hermetic traditions link it to the all-seeing eye. But why? What makes this tiny gland so significant? Ancient initiates focused on activating the inner eye through rituals, sound frequencies, and sacred plant medicine. The belief was that this gland, when stimulated, could grant visions, insight, and even transcendence beyond material reality. Modern science is beginning to understand why. The pineal gland is light-sensitive, producing melatonin and serotonin, which regulate sleep and consciousness. Some researchers suggest it may also produce DMT, the spirit molecule, which induces profound mystical experiences. The Eye of Horus itself is divided into 6 sacred fractions, each aligning with one of our fundamental perceptions: sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch, and something often overlooked: thought. The ancients understood that true perception is not just about sensing the physical world, but about interpreting reality. The final fraction represents the mind's ability to discern truth from illusion. This was the Egyptian way of illustrating that perception is not just physical, but extends into the mental and spiritual. The true eye does not just see the world, it interprets reality. It filters illusion from truth. If the ancients understood this, why was this knowledge lost? Or was it taken, sealed away by those who feared its power? Throughout history, rulers and institutions have rewritten narratives, turning inward wisdom into external dogma. Knowledge that once liberated became knowledge that enslaved, but symbols never lie. And the Eye of Horus still watches, waiting to be understood once more. Over time, teachings on the inner eye were suppressed, replaced with external forms of authority. People were led to believe that knowledge came from institutions, not from within. The very path that once led to enlightenment was obscured, but the symbol remains. The Eye of Horus, preserved in temple walls and ancient texts, is waiting to be understood again. The question is no longer whether the ancients knew the secrets of consciousness. The real question is, are we ready to remember? Part 3. The Esoteric Meaning of the Eye. 2 eyes. One sees beyond the veil, the other watches from above. The Eye of Horus and the all-seeing eye. 2 symbols that appear similar, yet carry vastly different meanings. One is a representation of divine perception, restoration, and inner sight. The other has been used as a mark of power, surveillance, and control. But how did these 2 eyes become so intertwined? And what is the truth that lies beneath their imagery? The Eye of Horus was never just an icon of the ancient world. It was a key, a sacred symbol of wisdom, healing, and spiritual vision. The myth tells of how Horus, the falcon god, lost his eye in battle against Set, the force of chaos. This was no ordinary injury, it was the loss of perception, the breaking of divine sight. But Thoth, the god of wisdom, restored the eye, not merely healing it, but transforming it. The new eye was not the same. It now carried knowledge beyond physical sight, a perception that could pierce illusion and reveal the hidden layers of reality. For millennia, initiates of mystery schools used the Eye of Horus as a symbol of awakening. To them, it was a reminder that true vision is not about what the eyes can see, but about what the soul can perceive. The eye was never meant to be something to look at, but something to look through. Then, something changed. The same eye that once symbolized enlightenment was reshaped into something else. It was no longer a gateway, it became a watchtower, no longer a path to higher vision, but a tool to surveil and control. The transformation was not sudden, it was quiet, systematic, hidden in plain sight. The all-seeing eye, often depicted atop an unfinished pyramid, began to emerge in secret traditions, institutions of power, and symbols of authority. It no longer represented inner wisdom, but external observation. It was no longer about self-mastery, it was about control. How did this happen? To understand this, we must go back to the ancient esoteric traditions. The Egyptians distinguished between two eyes, the left eye of Horus, associated with the moon, intuition, and hidden wisdom, and the right eye of Ra, linked to the sun, action, and external power. These two forces were meant to be in balance, but as time passed, the emphasis shifted from inner knowledge to external dominion. Some traditions sought to preserve the wisdom of the Eye of Horus, while others used its power for control. Those who understood the power of symbols knew that the best way to suppress knowledge was not to erase it, but to invert it. The Eye of Horus, once a guide to higher consciousness, became confused with the all-seeing Eye of Providence, a symbol of centralized power appearing on currency, government institutions, and secret orders. The question is no longer whether the meaning was altered. It was, but by whom, and for what end? Across centuries, secret orders, ruling elites, and powerful institutions have understood the power of symbols. Some preserved them, others corrupted them. The eye was never erased, it was repurposed. But by reclaiming its true meaning, we reclaim something even greater, our own perception of reality. Some believe that certain groups, understanding the power of esoteric symbols, rebranded the eye to signify dominance rather than awakening. What was once a tool for individual enlightenment became a tool for institutional surveillance, a shift from inner perception to external observation, a shift from freedom to control. And yet, the true meaning was never lost. It was only hidden, waiting not for time, but for those who are ready to see. Symbols do not fade, they awaken, and the Eye of Horus has always been watching, waiting for those who dare to remember. Throughout history, those who sought to awaken their inner sight turned to meditation, breathwork, and spiritual discipline. The ancient initiates of mystery schools trained themselves to activate this hidden faculty, understanding that true vision is not about looking outward, but inward. They knew that the world seen through the physical eyes is only a fragment of reality. The inner eye, once opened, reveals the deeper truths beneath the veil. This is more than history. It is a living tradition carried by seekers across time. From the priests of Egypt to the mystics of today, the journey remains the same: to see beyond the illusion, to break free from deception, to reclaim the vision that was always within. The eye has always been with us, but now we must ask, how will we choose to see? Part 4. How the eye was misused and distorted. Symbols are more than marks on stone. They are maps of the unseen, keys to perception. But what happens when a key meant to unlock consciousness is twisted into a lock, trapping perception instead? The Eye of Horus was once a guide to higher consciousness, a reminder that true sight comes from within. It represented protection, wisdom, and the journey toward divine awareness. But over time, its meaning was altered. The eye, once a symbol of personal enlightenment, became a symbol of external valence, dominance, and unseen control. Today, we see the eye everywhere, on corporate logos, government buildings, and financial institutions. It watches from dollar bills, digital screens, and monuments of power. But this is not the Eye of Horus. It is the Eye of Providence, the all-seeing eye atop the unfinished pyramid, a symbol often associated with secret societies, centralized power, and manipulation. There is a crucial difference between the two. The Eye of Horus teaches self-mastery, an inward journey to illuminate the hidden truths of existence. The Eye of Providence represents external control, a force that dictates perception rather than liberates it. One leads to enlightenment, the other to submission. Throughout history, those who sought control knew one truth: to rule the body, one must first blind the mind. The eye, once a beacon of inner wisdom, was stolen from the seekers and placed atop thrones. Its meaning was rewritten, not as a path to illumination, but as a mark of those who hold the chains. The eye no longer symbolized awakening, but surveillance. It no longer encouraged independent thought, but obedience. In ancient times, mystery schools guarded sacred knowledge. They taught initiates how to see beyond the material world, how to break free from illusion. But as centralized institutions rose, this knowledge was either destroyed or hidden. The shift was clear. Power should not belong to individuals, but to the few who could control the many. This transformation was not accidental. A society that is truly aware, that understands its own spiritual potential, cannot be controlled. But a society that is blinded, disconnected from inner wisdom, and dependent on external authority is easily manipulated. The most effective way to suppress a truth is not to erase it, but to distort it. The eye was never removed from history. It was placed in plain sight with its meaning inverted. And so, most people see it, but do not understand it. They recognize the symbol, but not the message. So we must ask, can the true meaning of the eye be reclaimed? Can we see through the illusion and remember what was lost? The answer lies in perception. If we look with ordinary sight, we see what they want us to see. But if we look with the Eye of Horus, the inner eye, we begin to see reality as it truly is. The eye has never vanished. It has only been hidden behind veils of deception. The question is no longer whether it exists, but whether we dare to see beyond the veil. Part 5. Activating your inner eye. For centuries, mystics and seekers have spoken of an eye that does not simply see the world, but perceives its truth. This is not the eye of flesh, but the eye of spirit, the gateway to deeper awareness, intuition, and higher consciousness. The ancients called it the Eye of Horus, the third eye, the seat of the soul. Today, it is linked to the pineal gland, a tiny organ deep in the brain that plays a vital role in our perception of reality. In a world that thrives on keeping us blind, where illusion is louder than truth, how do we awaken the eye that was never meant to close? It begins with silence. The outer world is filled with noise, pulling our attention outward. To activate inner vision, we must first turn inward. Meditation is the first key. By closing the physical eyes and quieting the mind, we shift our awareness from external distractions to internal clarity. Focus on the space between your brows. Breathe deeply. With each inhale, visualize a soft light forming at the center of your forehead. With each exhale, feel it expanding, radiating outward, clearing the fog of unconscious perception. Visualization is the next step. The mind communicates through symbols, just like the ancient traditions. The Eye of Horus itself is a symbol meant to guide us towards seeing beyond the surface. Picture it within you, glowing with wisdom. Imagine a golden thread connecting this eye to the center of your mind, awakening insights and clarity that have been dormant. Physical activation is also essential. The pineal gland is light sensitive. It responds to darkness by producing melatonin, the hormone of sleep and deep states of consciousness. This is why many spiritual traditions emphasize time in darkness, sun-gazing at dawn, or exposure to natural light rhythms. Modern distractions are not just external, they are chemical. Fluoride in water, processed foods, and the overstimulation of artificial light do more than dull the senses. They silence the inner eye, layer by layer, until what was once seen so clearly becomes a distant memory. A diet rich in clean water, sun exposure, and natural nutrients supports its awakening. But beyond all techniques, the greatest activation comes from awareness itself. The eye is not something to be opened, it is something to be remembered. It has always been there, waiting. True sight is not about seeing the illusion of the world with greater detail. It is about piercing through the illusion entirely. And when the eye remembers, the veil is lifted. The world does not change, but what you see within it does, forever. Final CTA. The real meaning behind the Eye of Horus. The Eye of Horus is more than an ancient Egyptian symbol. It is more than a relic of the past. It is a cipher, a hidden message encoded in the fabric of reality, waiting to be understood. Horus, the falcon god, fought Set, the force of chaos. In battle he lost his eye, but it was not gone forever. Thoth, the god of wisdom, restored it, making it whole again. This is more than a myth. It is the story of vision lost and vision restored. Not just seeing, but perceiving. The eye is a map. Its parts correspond to human senses. More than that, it mirrors the very structure of consciousness. The pineal gland, known as the third eye, sits at the center of our awareness. Ancient wisdom tells us this is the gateway to higher perception. But knowledge is a double-edged sword. What once illuminated minds was twisted into a tool of control. The Eye of Horus, a guide to enlightenment, was recast as a mark of power, a symbol not of awakening, but of domination. And so, the truth was buried. Until now. The question is not whether you can see. The question is, will you dare to look? Next video, Decoding Ancient Symbols, the hidden messages in plain sight. Watch next to decode the language of reality.